Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here. On behalf of Lucky Tackle Box today, we're gonna be breaking down September's Panfish box. Here's one of the fish that people say can't be caught on rod and reel. This happens to be on one of the jig heads included in the box. That's a big old golden shiner. You're looking for striper bait? Have fun catching them with the kids. Let's crack the box open. Let's see what's inside. Make sure the bottom's empty. All right, we're good. First things first, rival worm. These are cool. Right when I first started working for Lucky Tackle Box, this is one of the first worms they had me break down. The cool part is it's a long, skinny little worm. It's not for super tiny panfish, but I would say primarily yellow perch, crappie. That's gonna be your key category for this worm. It's threaded. The line goes through the worm, so there's a hook that comes out the tip and the tail, and there's a hook that comes out just about an inch down from where the line inserts through the tip of the bait. It's got a ready-made leader on there. You can just tie a little tiny swivel onto your line, tie this leader right onto that swivel, and you're ready to go. I'm gonna cast this on ultralight gear, and I'm probably gonna use a split shot rig. That just means one split shot about a foot or two up the line from the worm. It's a light worm. I'm gonna be throwing it on ultralight gear. The hooks on here are very small. I want a super limber, moderate to slow action. Slow's bending all the way back to the handle. Moderate's bending right in the tip. And I want anywhere from 2 to 4 pound line for that guy right there. I tied it directly to my line. I didn't have a little swivel. And I put a little tiny split shot up there. Now, it doesn't have any action, so the action is what you impart. Basically, I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna let it die down, and I'm gonna lift it and let it drop down. It's like a super slow jigging. Oh, look at that! You gotta be kidding me. And I hooked a largemouth, just trying to show you guys that demonstration on the rival worm. I made that pitch, the first lift and first drop. If that doesn't show you this thing flat out catches them, I don't know what else does. About 2 seconds of it being in the water, but I like to lift it and let it fall. That worm kind of just undulates, and if I lift it, that little split shot's gonna drop down, and that worm's just gonna kind of undulate down, lift up, undulate down. And you wanna work it slow. If you're working a worm like this fast, you're kind of defeating the purpose. This is a super subtle action, so it needs to be in a spot you're relatively comfortable knowing that there is panfish there, and work it slow and methodical, and that's gonna get you those bigger panfish or a bass just like that. The GoldenEye dockside bait and tackle little jig heads. Now, right in the very beginning, you see me catch that shiner, that golden shiner on these jig heads right here. What weight are these? These are a little lighter guy. I'm not sure what weight these are. They look like 1/32 or lighter than that. Nice stout little hook on there, gold with a black head. I prefer the majority of my jig heads to be black. A lot of the time I'll venture into those other colors, but black always looks like a regular bait fish. Pretty much 9 out of 10 fish have black in them. So that helps really well right there. Nice stout little hook too. They're not very limber, which I like. A lot of those little tiny jig head hooks are a little too limber, and I feel like it's gonna bend out if a bass grabs it, or if a shell cracker grabs it. They have much harder mouths, and I don't want that to happen. Now with that jig head, I'm also gonna fish that on the ultralight, but depending on your plastic, if you get a little heavier plastic, you can fish it on a light setup. The length of the rod doesn't matter too much when you're fishing panfish. You generally don't have to make a super long cast, especially with a jig head, so I wouldn't worry about the length of the rod for putting a jig head on. You can see I have one right here. This is my light rod. This is a 6.5 foot rod, and I have that one on 4 pound test, and my ultralight right here has the 2. Here we have the Vicious crankbait. This is a cool little deal. It's a little bit smaller, and it's almost like a round bill / square bill, so it means it's gonna have a really wide displacement. Says this guy runs anywhere from 4 to 8 feet deep. That's depending on line. Most crankbaits are rated on 12 pound diameter line. So if it says 8 feet, that's probably as low as 10 pound diameter to get it to 8 feet. And 4 feet, 15 to 12 is gonna make it run shallower. With a thicker line diameter, your bait's gonna run shallower. The thinner, it's gonna be able to carve down deeper to get down deeper. Now the panfish I would be fishing this on is probably crappie in the spring or in the fall when they're chasing bait and I want to cover water. in that regards to covering water, I'm not going to throw this on bait casting gear. I'm going to throw it on a light or a medium light spinning rod with probably 4 or 6 pound test. I'm going to be getting a lot of bass in the middle of this. So I'll probably fish it on 6 just to make sure my line doesn't get a lot of stretch and it stays durable throughout the day. This is where I do want a little bit longer rod. I would prefer at least a 6'6", up as tall or as long as 7'6" for that matter. With a crankbait, you're looking to make a long cast and cover a lot of water. The longer the cast, your bait can get down deeper sooner. And you're hunting, you're making long cast and covering a ton of water to find those fish. I'll tell you right now, it's still late summer right here, early fall. This is temporarily going in my smallmouth box, I'll tell you that much. Dang it. He ain't that tiny. Look at the ones with him. Oh my God! I got 2! I got 2! I got 2 on. Look at that! Ah, yeah, baby! Double stripers! Yes! First time! Yeah! Here we have the Phil floats. It's a bobber. If you guys haven't heard of Phil, they've been around forever. They probably make the majority of bobbers out there on the market. Now this one's styrofoam. Now people tell me, dude, why would you use a styrofoam bobber? Simple. If I'm fishing super tiny light stuff on super tiny light line on ultralight gear, if I have anything weighting down my rig, it's gonna be disruptive. A styrofoam float like that fishes absolutely fantastic on ultralight gear. You don't feel the weight of it at all. You can fish those little panfish, crappie, bluegill, yellow perch, you name it, on the little styrofoam floats on that ultralight setup, and it's really comfortable. Stout little setups like this, very affordable. Definitely need them in your panfish box. All right, the Dr. Juice Panfish and Crappie Bait Scent. Now here's a thing right here. You're gonna hear a lot of people out there saying, oh, I don't use bait scent. And for a lot of predator fish, if you have a lure that's moving fast, bait scent doesn't really apply too much to those presentations. But in regards to crappie, a lot of the time we're float fishing them and the lure's sitting there in front of their face and they come and inspect it at that point. Bait scent is going to do you way more good. I used to fish crappie a long time ago. Well, I still fish them all the time, but without scent or without any additional little thing to stick on the hook to add scent, and I realized I was making a huge mistake for many years. So the slower the moving bait, the better off you are adding scent. And that's the same thing for bass fishing, like jigs and worms. The colder it gets, the fish are going to move slower. That's also where scent can be extremely useful. All right, the micro chatterbait. You guys have got this probably a few times if you've been subscribed to the Panfish box for a while now. And you're not going to hear a single person complain that they got too many micro chatterbaits. Plain and simple, this thing catches huge panfish. This is my trophy hunting panfish setup. And dude, I will catch everything on a micro chatterbait. Some of my biggest raiders ever have came off this bait. In fact, I'm chasing the California state record on this bait currently, and I'm going to be trying all the way through December. You can cast it out there. This is where I'm going to be throwing this one on at least a medium light with 6 pound test line. Like I said, you'll catch everything on here, so you want your line to hold up. A long rod, you're making long casting, you're covering a lot of water. I'm still throwing it on spinning tackle. I rarely ever pull out casting gear, bait casting gear for panfish, but the micro chatterbait, if you're not throwing this thing, get out there and commit. You're not going to get 100 bites a day. You may get 5 or 6, but they're going to be bigger panfish than you've ever caught, and you can hold me to that. All right, so with my micro chatterbait, I want to make pretty long casts out there, and I want to have it down, hitting structure and cover. I want to feel it deflecting. If you don't feel that vibration, you're going to feel that in your tip. That means more than likely you tangled it or it's got some grass on it. You want to be able to reel it and you're going to feel that vibration in your tip. But if you're not bumping anything, slow it down, reel slower, or fish tighter to that cover or that structure. A lot of the time that bait in there vibrating around in front of their face when they're tight to that cover or structure, is what's going to get them to attack. So remember, stay tight, bump structure, bump cover. Make sure you can feel that vibration. If not, give it a pop with your rod tip. If you don't still feel it vibrating at that point, bring it back in, fix it, and get it right back out there. The K&E Stopper Lures Speed Stop. This is a bobber stop, and this is cool because I had never fished one of these before until I got this. You can look right here. A bobber stop is just basically, you have a slip float that the line runs all the way through the middle, and you need something to stop it. You have a bobber stop, you have a bead, your float, a little split shot, and your hook down here. Now, the K&E Stopper is a little tiny red deal. It's right on the end of my thumb there. You put the line in one side and you twist it around and run the line out the other side. This is a fixed bobber stop. This thing does not slip up and down. So once you have your depth figured out exactly, that's where a K&E bobber stop like that, the K&E Stopper bobber stop, the speed stop, I always forget the name of that, will hold it exactly in place, and you don't have to worry about slippage, and it reels through the guides just fine and right back onto your spool as well. It's so tiny, it's plastic, and I'm not going to say it's flimsy, but it's limber, so you can reel it right through your guides, right into your spool. Super awesome stop when in regards to pan fishing. I used to use a lot of those knots and they would get caught. I'm fishing light line, lighter lures. I don't have a lot of momentum and a lot of weight coming out of that rod tip to yank a knot through, but that little puppy right there seems to come through great. Last but not least, the Mustad size 2 crappie hooks. Once again, if you ever fish minnows, you need these. If heck, you can fish snails, you can fish grubs, anything you want on these. They have the longer shank. If you're not paying attention, you're taking kids out, definitely use longer shank, because if the crappie chokes down on it and you got one off your rig, you got a high-low, you got a weight down here, you got a hook here and a hook right here, and the crappie swallows it, at least he doesn't get the whole shank, and you'll still be able to work that longer shank loose and get it out of that fish instead of having to retie your whole rig. I'm Nick the Informative Fisherman, guys. Make sure to read the magazine that comes in it. Check out your Lucky Tackle Box stickers. If you like this video, make sure to like us on our YouTube page here and watch the rest of the videos. Check out these videos below that Travis has done or if I have done. We greatly appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.